Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this week. It's been a little while. Welcome back. We're so glad you are able to join us today. My name is Liz Mangus, and I'm a literacy specialist with Saddleback Educational Publishing. We have a great session planned for you today, a perfect beginning of the year webinar. As you're logging in, just a quick reminder, your control bar is at the bottom of your web browser window, and that is where you will find the chat, the Q&A, and the live transcript icons. We do want you to chat with us today. So if you could, go to the chat right now, go ahead and click on it, open it, select everyone from the dropdown, and then just let everybody know where you're joining us from. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is, well, first of all, we want to know where you're joining us from. And secondly, that means you'll have that everyone in the dropdown kind of pre-selected. So that way, when you chat throughout the presentation today, everyone will be able to see your comments. If you have questions throughout the session, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A. And if you'd like to take advantage of subtitles, go ahead and select live transcript and then click on show subtitles. We're on Twitter. We would love it if you followed us. So when I say we are on Twitter, I mean Saddleback is on Twitter, and our fabulous presenter today, Ieva Grouseless, is also on Twitter. So don't be shy, say hello, let everybody know that you joined us for this great session today. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. So let's say hello to Ieva. She's a first-time Saddleback webinar series presenter. So welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me. I'm very well today. And hi, everyone.
Let me see who's here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. People are continuing to join in. I hope you're having a great start to your school year. And I don't want to give it away. I know Ieva is going to introduce herself and share a lot about her journey and who she is. But I do want everybody to know she is a teacher. So she just finished a long day at work. And I'm guessing she rushed home quickly and got herself a fresh cup of coffee to re-energize to be able to share this information with you. So I want to say thank you so much, because I know how hard that is to do. And we really appreciate you taking the time today and just sharing your knowledge with us. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We have already got a question popping in. Oh, that's Michelle. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and officially get started. Our topic for today is the three-step roadmap to teaching English learners. Now, as I said, Ieva is a teacher. She's doing this work every day, and she's come up with a lovely framework to kind of hopefully simplify things for you. She is going to share more and more information about herself as we get into this and kind of tell you who she is and how she got here. But I do want to let you know that she, in addition to being a teacher, is the founder and owner of simplyieva.com, the ESL Teaching Podcast, and the ESL Teaching Roadmap. Through these platforms, she provides help to busy ELL teachers with ready-made, I love that, ready-made resources, actionable tips, and meaningful coaching. There's a whole lot more to her than that, but that gives you a quick preview into who she is. Thank you. I'm going to let you go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So let me I have some notes here, so I'll be reading a little bit. Thank you all for being here, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And I wanted to share with you my three-step roadmap to teaching English learners. And before I talk about myself, I have a few questions, okay, for you. And if you could type your answers in the chat, I would love to see. So imagine for a moment, you're tasked with teaching new English learners, right? How do you feel? What is your word? And enter your word in the chat. So some teachers feel overwhelmed, some teachers feel confused. Do you feeling like excited, thrilled, productive, adequate, inadequate? I mean, I honestly went through all of these emotions in a day today. So excited, anxious, overwhelmed, all kinds, nervous. And I think it's totally normal to feel that way, right? But at the same time, it is not a good place to live. And we want to make sure that, we are doing right by ourselves and by our students. And I see determined. I love that. I love that. So let's see. So another question, which one of these is you? Are you a new ESL teacher? So for example, you've never had EL beginners and have no idea to where to even start. Or do you work with mixed level EL classes? So you've worked with the beginners, but you're not entirely sure what's the next step, right? So they're in the classroom and you're not entirely sure, like, okay, so no, they know their alphabet and basics, what's next? Or do you have like a little bit of a resource crisis, which is like no newcomer curriculum at all, or too many random worksheets? And I'll be honest, enter yours in the chat, and I'll be honest, I've been all of them. And it's for me right now is the mixed proficiencies, trying to marry them all. There are new teachers, there's a lot of mixed proficiency levels. Yes, absolutely. So, and I think this is like a daily bread of our life. I have newcomers and level 4s in the same class, and it is a little crazy. So let's think about what we're going to be talking about. So like real teachers, we have some objectives, right? And so the objective number 1 is to identify the main challenges that EL teachers face when a new English learner joins their class. It could be a new English learner, a newcomer, or it could be a new English learner who is joining, with some English, but there are some challenges. Also, we want to recognize that there is a simple roadmap for teaching EL beginner and newcomer students and for helping our mixed proficiency level classes. We're going to also review 3 specific steps in teaching EL newcomers. Again, I said newcomers, but it's probably mostly all EL students. Newcomers just come to mind because they're so fresh on my mind. But in reality, there are 3 steps that we can kind of like put all of our teaching in one roadmap. And then we're going to have an exit activity. We share orally or in the chat, in this case, which steps and activities you have found most inspiring. And maybe you will be inspired to join the actual ESL teaching roadmap. But my hope is that you will find, no matter what your situation is, my hope is that you will find value in what I'm sharing here today. So just like Liz said, I have a little bit of a story to tell you about myself. This is me, a couple of pictures of me. And again, my name is Ieva Groslis, and I'm EL teacher by day. I'm teacher coach and the face behind simplyieva.com. And I'm a former English learner myself. I'm not entirely sure if former suits this title, because I feel like I'm still learning English and I'm still noticing language, maybe because language is so important to me. And I'm originally from Lithuania, and I began learning English as a foreign language in 5th grade. And the top picture there sitting, it was back in the Soviet times. So you see the little star on my uniform. And I was caught in the hallway to take a picture. So for me, there were several moments that have shaped me into what I am today and gave me the passion for both teaching English learners and helping EL teachers reach them and understand them. So first, I won an English language contest when I was 15. And this is the bottom picture of me and my sister there. The contest entailed, or the prize was a 6-month exchange program in the US. So given the geographical and political circumstances at the time, my small country in northeastern part of Europe has just split from the Soviet Union, and my educational experience, the gift of the educational experience was in Florida. The culture shock was pretty much indescribable. I don't know how to, to this day, I don't know how to explain the profound differences in cultures and in life and in everything. And my overwhelm with culture and language, for example, how come I couldn't understand anything? I knew English, right? Served as the seed for my future educational and life decision. And so after, telling myself that even though United States is great and I would never live in United States, it's great, but it's not for me. I met my husband, who's from New Hampshire, and lo and behold, I end up here, and I've been here for 18 years. So, and I'm loving it. So a 16-year-old mind and an older person's mind are not the same thing. And finally, I did not deliberately choose EL, quite honestly. It chose me. I know it sounds cheesy, but when I moved here, I had my kid, and then after like a year or two, I said, okay, well, I want to do something. I have a bachelor's in English and literature. What can I do? And I said, well, let me try a school. This was literally just a path that took me where I am today. So I applied, and even though I was not a good fit for the instructional position for which I applied, the principal that interviewed me says, hey, I think you're going to be a great fit for ESL, and they're hiring right now. Here's the person. You can go upstairs and have a chat. And literally the rest is history. I'm here. I've been teaching ESL for 14 years or more, I think. It's been a while, and it literally is my passion. So what do I do in my free time? Yes, I have some hobbies. I like to read, I like movies, I like to travel and all that, but I do work a lot on simplyeva.com, and it is my passion to help other people. It is my passion to do my podcast, to write the blog post, to do workshops like this. And I truly, truly appreciate you being here and giving me the chance to share what I know and hopefully inspire you. So just like Liz said, in 2016, I founded Simply Ieva ESL simply because I needed something simple and I needed the answers for myself. And then this year I started the ESL Teaching Podcast, and the ESL Teaching Roadmap has been my ongoing project of love. So now that you know a little bit about me, let's get right into it. I saw this a while back on the Instagram, and this picture might not be new to you, but it is so profound, okay? We could be on any of these steps, but the importance is smaller steps. The EL field is so broad, and we have so many things coming at us. Some of us are the only teacher in the district, which is a lot to handle. So some of us have newcomers and have never had newcomers. Some of us work with people who have never even had English learners in their classroom. So there's many different situations, but it seems like the ladder on the right is something that we look at the beginning of the school year, and we need a little bit of help, a little smaller steps, to take to teach our newcomers. So for example, what does it take to teach newcomers, right? Why is it a topic that causes so much stress and overwhelm? How can I help my English learners in mixed proficiency classes? When I'm done teaching the basics, what's next? Okay, so one step at a time. So the challenges we want to make sure that we are aware of challenges. I'm just going to kind of repeat them, and I'm sure the challenges are broad and unique at the same time, right? So as an ESL teacher, you have to be a master of all subjects and almost like a jack of all trades. I personally work with middle and high schoolers, and it's a little bit more different with elementary school, but we still have to know a lot, right? So that can be absolutely daunting. So remember the picture I shared in the previous slide? You don't have to do and know all the things right away. One step at a time will suffice. And not to mention that students learn at their own pace as well. Collaboration and advocacy. It's a joy and a challenge at the same time. These are the two words we hear so frequently in our profession, but they're not always easy to attain because it's not just us. There's other people involved as well, right? So whether you work with several students at a time, or you may receive a lot of questions from classroom content area teachers, everybody's overwhelmed as well. So when you create a solid plan, well, it works well, but it also can be challenging. Having complete newcomers, having mixed proficiency level classes, scheduling decisions. I was just talking to my colleagues recently. They work in elementary school, so scheduling for elementary school is pretty complicated. Whereas in middle and high school, I have my schedule already set, but I dive right in and I have no time to do anything else. The paperwork and all that stuff. So it's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, a lot of challenges for us as teachers. And I also included your own mind, because I think sometimes we either overthink, we have to watch where we are with our own mind, because, it's very easy to think that everything, is terrible or everything is hard and all the, negative thoughts attached to that. So it's really important to try to take care of yourself and to try to give yourself a break and to turn off the notifications on the phone and to find a time to watch a favorite show or something. I'm speaking from practice because I've had to do this, and I know when I'm okay in my mind, then those challenges and the next day in the classroom is a little bit better. Now, well, let's look at the ESL teaching roadmap now that we've gotten the challenges out of the way, right? And I get overwhelmed easily. And today was actually one of those days. I'm not perfect. So having a clear plan of some sort really helps me to see. It is a broad plan, but I can look at it and say, okay, so which stage am I at right now? And that's what I'm trying to take from it. And that's what I'm trying to work with. And it is truly liberating to know that I have something like this to fall back on. So after noticing the patterns in my own teaching, and as well as having had my fair share of all kinds of students in all kinds of proficiency groups, I came up with a simple 3-step roadmap, which really basically encompasses all of EL teaching. Okay, so no matter where you are, whether you're new, whether you're seasoned, whether you're larger district, the only EL teacher, somewhere in between, these 3 steps are typically what we go through when we teach our English learners. And I will go over them in detail in the next slides, but for now, this is the overview. The step 1 is connect. Step 2 is embark. And step 3 is ascend. Embark and ascend are big words, but I think that you'll understand why I named them this way as we go forward. So let's begin with the first step. And the first step is connecting with students, families, and colleagues. If you don't take any of the other steps away from this presentation, this is, in my opinion, the most important. So we can connect with students, okay? And I think the beauty of being an English learner teacher is that we see our students for several years, whether you're elementary or middle and high school, and making a connection is truly important, because when they know you're there for them, they will be more likely to come to you, and you will be more likely to see their progress, and the whole dynamic will be different. So you can do icebreaker activities. It's very simple, right? There are tons of them, and you can find them for any age group, but there are simple rules for choosing icebreakers, right? So the icebreakers, especially if you're seeing the student for the first time, right? Not too personal, because it depends on the culture. Some cultures are completely no when it comes to personal stuff. Paying attention to the proficiency level. So some some icebreakers are not going to work as well for beginner level students that they are for higher level students. So trying to find something that everybody can do. And then also age appropriate. Okay, so age appropriate icebreakers. I have found that physical movement of some sort, and if possible, some food, candy, obviously depending on allergies and the religious preferences. These things work really well. So not too personal, minding the proficiency level, and age appropriate. And getting to know you activities allow the students and you to create relationships and trust. Okay. And you can do those activities throughout the first week. One of the things that floats around in the internet space, and also it's very important, is to learn how to pronounce the student's name. And you probably already noticed my name is Ieva, and that's a Lithuanian name. And I know that not all sounds exist in English, and some people have a hard time pronouncing it. So trying to pronounce your student's name as best as you can, because different languages use different speech organs. And if some people can't pronounce it, it's not a big deal. But if the attempt is made, and if a person is showing the interest, that's, I think, where the magic lies. And then building a classroom community. What are your classroom rules? What are your classroom agreements? How are you going to, what is the procedures? What do you expect from students and what the students expect from you? So connecting with students is one of the first steps. I have a couple of worksheets here. One of them is the one on the left that says family, pets, and food. I typically, it's great for newcomers. And my newcomers like to either draw or to write. Sometimes, they even bring pictures. And then the one on the right, my story, has a potential for a greater discussion with the students. Why do I have this name? Some people have a story about their name, some people don't. In other cultures, for example, Ieva is an actual flowering bush in Lithuania. It's like in the springtime, it has like white blossoms, and for some reason it's called Ieva. I don't know. The reality is that Ieva is the same as Eve or Eva or Hava in other languages. We also want to welcome our students into academic community. So we want to know them not only as people, but we also want to know where they are academically. So I did surveys for a little bit, but I also noticed that there's a lot of words like, what do you like? Can you write the sentence, whatever. So I created some simple surveys that would be immediately clear, like what is your favorite subject of school, so that the students don't have to retrieve the information, but they see the picture and they like click, or choosing, do we like to read or do we like movies? So these are some helpful tools also. So we want to connect with them as a person, but we also want to know where they stand academically. Connecting with families is also an important thing. And in a smaller district, it is an ongoing project for us. I know that there are a lot of large districts who have a specific procedure of how to connect with the families and so on. So we have found that registration, if the new student is registering, and if an ELT and the home language survey indicates that there is another language spoken in the home, for EL teacher to be at the registration meeting is key. I already talked to my guidance counselors at the high school, and I went to one today, and I'm already planning to go to another next week. But it is really, really convenient, because then you actually meet the parents, and then you can read the situation, and then you can see what's going on. You can also connecting with families to have, each school has an open house, but we haven't done this, but on tap, so to speak, is to have an multilingual learner family information night. And that would be only for EL families, because a lot of times people don't know how to fill out forms. There's so much information. So just to having a place for the parents and for the students to ask questions that are not like specifically time bound, or to have a safe space for them to be okay with not maybe speaking English, is also very important. Using text messages with the parents. Some schools require to use Remind. My parents find me on WhatsApp, so I do have to sometimes say that I won't text back after 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. I do have to set some boundaries because remember I talked about overwhelm earlier. So this is also one of the things that we have to think about, but text messaging is amazing when it comes to answering quick questions or asking quick questions about some paperwork or so on. And then last year we started doing monthly gatherings, informal gatherings with the parents, and the parents are already asking for something like this year. We would come, have coffee and tea and maybe some treats, and we just sit down. Whoever comes is welcome. We just sit down, we share, people meet each other. It's kind of like nice to see that they are not the only families in the district or in town. Everybody shares their experiences and see somebody, maybe, they meet somebody who maybe speaks their language and so on. So connecting with families, making this a connection is super, super important. And then connecting with the teachers. So how can you do that? This is a large topic, okay? But here's how I have done it and how we have done it where I work. So you can have a shared document, whether it's an elaborate form or it's a list of like ongoing questions, for example, right? So this is what we're doing today. Or maybe you want to have like a shared document of who does what, depending on your teaching situation. The green tab here that says home videos resources. At the end of last school year, we got together and we created an ELL website for our district teachers, because we get so many questions about, oh, this student, their English is fine, I don't think they need EL services, or oh, I don't know why are they not in ELL, and so on and so on. There's a lot of assumptions. So we started with creating a few videos saying, what is the ELL program? What is our process? What is, how do we determine if somebody is an EL student and not? And also like giving them an overview of the WIDA, we are in a WIDA state. So giving them the overview of the standards that we follow, so that people know that we're not just like running between schools and pulling students and just, doing homework all the time. So that has been, we've received so much positive feedback. So if you ever have a professional development day and you can just simply, we did it in a video format. If you could do a PowerPoint format, I'm sure your regular education teachers would really appreciate it. And then the last one at the bottom, the screenshot is a multilingual learner individual language profile. We share something like this with our teachers, where we talk about where the WIDA level of the student, the language background, what they can do, and the sentences there, I don't know if you can see it, but the can-dos, the recommended classroom accommodations and grading tips, these are all links. So we include the information so that it's not too overwhelming for the teacher. And so that we can, have a conversation. This could be a beginning step for our conversation. And of course, as EL teachers, we have a lot of background information on our students, so we include that as well. So this is how it looks like. I would do the student profile, where the student is from, family information, about BICS and CALP, the strengths, the interest, and of course, I include all of my, this is where, when I see the student, this is where you can find me. These are some of the tips and so on and so forth. So this is the connect part, and I hope that this really helps paint a more accurate picture of how we can all work together, because this is not just mine, not just my business. Which brings us to step number 2, which is embark, okay? I wrote newcomer in parentheses because you don't necessarily have to have a newcomer, but you know, every year we are embarking on a new adventure. You know, I work in a smallish district by the number of multilingual learners, and I service a few schools. So in fact, this year I'm only working in 2 schools, which is really exciting to me, but it's already proven to be like, you know how they broaden the road, but the traffic jams are still there. So it's the same. I reduced the number of schools, but the number of students is growing. So I mostly work with mixed proficiency groups, which is typically both a challenge and reward. But my biggest puzzle has always been what to teach newcomers, and especially in my situation when I have other students that are more proficient, who've been learning English for a while, and when the newcomer is not there yet, they are, for example, that one-word phrase, right? So the embarking on a journey, we need to identify the needs, okay? So we need to know where we are in order to be able to proceed. And I wanted to share a few stories with you. They're not going to be very long, but a couple of examples, and I'm hoping that you can identify with a few of them, because this kind of like shows the variety of students that we work with. So a couple of years ago, I had a 6th grade newcomer. To say that the kid was a gift for any teacher would be an understatement, okay? He would come to class prepared, he wanted to learn, and then he took the learning to the next level. He would ask questions, he would make connections, he was looking forward to the next lessons. He wanted to know everything about it. He would let me know, okay? Yet, he was a newcomer, and we communicated, the communication was there because we had a connection, okay? But he would basically kept me on my toes, and I kind of like a lot of the materials that I'm going to show you, I literally created based on his needs, and I saw that these materials and all of these needs go across the board. I've also had an 8th grader with interrupted schooling who was placed in regular education classes and asked to do the work he had no idea about. To top it off, I would see him every other day because of the schedule problems. And he was in a group with 2 other challenging students. And it was frustrating for me, maybe not so much for him. He was a lighthearted young man. So, but it was very, very difficult. You know, the needs of the 3 students were radically different. And then think about an overwhelmed 10th grader who is used to hard work and being a good student and really has a hard time dealing with the fact that she knows she's capable, but she's worried that she can't understand enough in the class. And she's worried that she's asked to do all of these things and she's lost and all of the things, so to speak. So the thing is that although these students come from different backgrounds, they need to get the basics of the language to begin feeling successful. Okay, so that's where we begin. We begin with the simple things. You know, it's kind of like little but essential challenges that prevent students from working at full capacity. What do they need to know right now, right? Do they need to know? I still, to this day, we've been in school for a couple of okay, I lied, not a couple of weeks, but a couple of days. But the students come in. Where do I go now? If we have a visual schedule, students have something to refer to. What is the expectation for the class? If the students have a visual syllabus of some sort, that's much easier for them. The information presented in short bursts and short sentences so that it's easy to digest. The students also need to know the classroom and school objects and subjects. So they might know, you know, pencil, paper, and write, but at the same time, you know, certain things like folders and binders and advisory and all of these things might be new to them. And then, of course, we need to know that the students have their basic needs met and they know how to express them. And then also their emotions, you know, how do I feel? The other thing that we need to also know that people and places in your school, names are difficult for English learners, okay? And so are the acronyms, such as family and consumer science, for example, FACS or GYM or tech ed or all kinds of other, whatever other jargon, for lack of a better word, your school district might be using. So what is in some schools you have a library, in some you have a media center, in some you have just something else. And why do we have, different names for the same place? Do you want to go to the bathroom or to the restroom or ladies' room or lavatory? So again, simple things, simple name repetitions, walking through the places. If you ask the students to remember something, who's your teacher, they will not know for a little bit, but you can help them get there so that they can get their bearings. And technology, the past couple of years have also proven that technology is key, right? What is required at school and what is available at school and at home. Okay, so even though it may seem that this generation is very tech savvy, like think about it, in real life, TikTok is not the same as navigation in the Google Classroom, right? So while some students may be coming from schools that use the technology and feel fairly comfortable, in my practice and in my experience, some really need simple explanations of things like turn in button, submit, download, upload, open, click. And these are your basics in those first weeks with newcomers, helping them give them the language so that they are able to function in this new digital era. So these are a couple of examples that I have that I share with the students. And again, they see the picture, they know what it is, but to call it a desktop or a tablet, it's not always what comes to mind first. So now you probably are using this, but I don't want to assume, because these are my favorite tools, tech tools that I've used with all age groups. Jamboard is great for listening and writing. The students can write immediately on Jamboard, and you can pose a question at the start of the class for them. Padlet is great for classroom projects or for vocabulary, and you can even have the students practice vocabulary by recording their speaking in there. So they can, write the word, write the definition, and then record themselves speaking the word or a sentence with the word. And then Pear Deck, I use Pear Deck for interactive lessons, for daily check-ins, for reading, for writing, for social, emotional, and all that. If you've never used those platforms, I literally have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel, simply Ieva ESL, how to use Jamboard and how to use Padlet. So, if you need some inspiration, head on over there. And again, our newcomers, once they know the words, right, we want to bring them to the next level of the short phrases, question formations. We want to string everything together. We want to teach them the sentence structure. We want to make sure that they know that there's a subject, verb, object, word order, that we use words, this is, those are, that we need to, this is like a small, like little grammar lessons built in. Yes or no questions formations. If you say, this is an apple, is this an apple? It actually is logical to me, but it's not always logical how to form those questions for the students. So spending some time on the simple grammar will bring you a long way. And I did want to mention that I have an 8th grader who didn't know how to spell please yesterday. And I realized that we probably need to go back even more to phonics. So I started looking for sight words, and that's what we're going to be doing. Sight words for an 8th grader, but they're not going to perform in classrooms if they feel that they're unable to spell and they're not going to be able to write, right? So from a sentence to a conversation. So we talked about simple things. We talked about one word stage. We talked about how we want to bring the students to form the simple sentences and phrases. And we also want to make sure that we can start having some conversations. And I've liked games a lot. Language games are my favorite. And a sentence structure can be taught with a game who, what, where. You can see here a picture of, where the birdie says. So the students learn the sentence structure of, the bird is sitting on the branch. In other cases, you can have this game where you have students guessing what other students are drawing. So one student, picks, there's 3 decks of card. One picks the who card, okay? Then there is a what card, and then there is the where card. So this could be a fun game to play, and the students can practice their language this way. And then I also like to include idioms, even for newcomers, because idioms are used so frequently in our language and in our speaking that I try to point out, fishing for compliments, for example, or going out on a limb. Even newcomers can understand, and this can be a nice conversation. So all of these worksheets, are available inside the ESL Teaching Roadmap membership, and I will share, a little bit later how you can get access to it, but I want to show you what is available and hopefully to inspire you. So as a gift today, I'm not done yet, but because we're talking about newcomer, I want to share with you a newcomer teaching checklist, because what are the topics that we could teach, right? It's very great that, I am sharing all of this information, but for newcomer, if we have the topics to cover with the newcomer, it's much easier to follow and to build our own lessons. So you can find this. We will share the link to this teaching checklist so that you can grab it, and this works for all age groups. And then the curriculum materials that follow the checklist can be found in the ESL Teaching Roadmap membership, okay? Because we want to make sure that we focus on teaching and not going crazy trying to find materials. So the Connect, the Embark, and the Ascend are all inside the membership. So, which brings us to the third step, and that is Ascend to academic skills with mixed proficiency classes. And it's literally not the last step. It's more like a stepping stone to so many other adventures. And the question here is, they know the basics, right? So they are familiar with the school, with the schedules, with the expectations, the basics of the language, sentence structure. They're able to hold somewhat a social conversation. Now what? What do we do now? Okay, so once your newcomers are on their way to mastering simple vocabulary, you can continue by helping them access the content concepts. And I have identified that it's repetitive for all students, okay? So a lot of our students, need to access the content. And I'm just gonna put these over here. If your students are literate in their first language, right? So writing is required across the board in all grades, and writing looks a little different for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. However, third through fifth and sixth is different yet. And then when they come to middle and high school, they already should know how to write a paragraph. They already are asked to write essays. And if your students are literate, they surely know how to write. But in higher grades, I realized that terminology might not be there, because writing is different in different cultures and the requirements are a little bit different, right? So in American writing, everybody's asking you to be very specific, to do the topic sentence, to do the supporting details. Whatever you say, you have to prove that it is right and correct. So when a lot of students have come to me, what is a paragraph? I said, you have to write a paragraph. And they're not going to say, what is a paragraph? And I said, do you know what it is? Well, I'm not entirely sure. So this is what you teach, the students. How do we write a paragraph? We string those sentences that we have learned into a paragraph, for example. You can also reach out to your content area teachers and ask to see if they can, if they have a scope and sequence that they can share with you, which will be the perfect medium for you picking content area vocabulary. Last year, I started picking out vocabulary of the instructions and directions. For example, assess, imply, infer. All of these words are going to go across the board, and the students are going to need to understand them, whether they're talking in language arts or whether they're in science, or whether they're doing a project about bugs in 3rd or 4th grade, right? So also think about how you can scaffold text engineering. It's a whole new topic, but it's taking a text and making it approachable making it in such a way that the students can access it. So maybe adding some pictures to the text, or maybe kind of like taking only the most important information, chunking the text. And of course, I added phrasal verbs because when you tell a newcomer or any English learner what is to hand in, check in, all set, these are the things that they might, scratch their head. They're not going to show you, but these can be confusing for them as well. So now here are some of the things that bring content to life and promote language development. So I've used them all. You can use short films. You can use short stories. There are some real life skills that are fantastic writing and speaking practice, and they all have embedded grammar practice. So I'm going to go over each of them in the next slides. And I hope that you will be inspired to try something out like this in your classes. So short films, I love short films. Okay, so here are examples of the short films that I have used in my classroom. And quite honestly, let's think about this. The books the students read in the classroom are really out of the question, especially at lower levels, unless you have access for curriculum books in their first language. So if you have a newcomer who needs to read A Great Gatsby, or even Holes, or even something at the elementary level, I can't think of any title for elementary, but unless if they are in the lower level proficiency levels, they might not be able to access. And if you need to teach, let's say, plot elements, right? If you need to teach the short story elements, if you need to teach the sequence and the plot and the characters and the title, this is where short films come in really, really nice. And I love the Pixar shorts. They can help you teach concept vocabulary, such as perseverance, patience, friendship. So big things. And they are visuals, and the students are still learning, and they're learning language. So again, For the Birds is great to see about friendship. After the Rain is also about problem solving, and One Man Band is kind of like a competition and being boastful. So I have others too, that if you just Google Pixar shorts, I haven't used La Luna, Bao, The Blue Umbrella. I don't know which ones you know, and if you know any good ones, share in the chat, because this is truly a gift for teaching language and content. Now, so you can do a content vocabulary preview. You can chunk the information, right? And in the beginning, and then you can do targeted skills, right? So if you have like a sequence that you want to cover, you can, use the short film for that. Chunked information is when the students are watching the film and answering the questions, and here's how it might look. So I have something from After the Rain, and so we want the students to watch it and kind of like drag the correct definition of plot into the orange box. This was all made during the COVID time, so a lot of my materials were digital, but you can totally utilize this in, with paper if it's easier for you. So the students can practice writing by writing the correct definition. We give them choices as to which is the title of the story, which is the character, and then the students can drag the sequence into the last slide, what happens first, next, and finally. Now, short stories are equally as fascinating for me, and you can find them. They also go with the curriculum. So I'm showing you one, The Gift of the Magi. It's one of my favorites because you can actually use it not only during the holiday season, but also Valentine's Day, right? So you can tweak it any which way you like, and whatever your topic or whatever your theme is, right? Great for speaking, great for writing, great for discussion. And so once the beginners have acquired the basics, right, they can join your topic for whatever class you're covering. So here is a sample of how I would do a short story. So the slide on the left that says let's chat could be in a group of students who are more proficient, right? So they can use the sentence frames to complete sentences. And then let's chat on the right side. We want our students in lower proficiencies to actually know the word valuable. So we pre-teach the word, and we have them, what is valuable to them, right? So they would, the answers would differ, but in both groups are able to participate in the same discussion. And then the choices, you either read the story, you watch a short movie, you watch a movie and take chunks of the story and cover whatever your objective is. And again, you can do so many things with a short story, teaching the vocabulary, the basic concepts that your students need to know in their content area classes. Now, real life skills are important. How to write an email. Maybe younger students are not there yet, but how to write a letter might be something to explore. I know even like sometimes when we test the students, sometimes they're asked to write a letter to somebody, right? But writing an email has like an immediate practical application, and writing is a productive skill. So, even a simple sentence is an achievement, as we saw in step 1, right? So the students can follow a simple, repeatable formula, and they can also see how they can communicate, and they feel empowered that their words reach, let's say, another teacher. And like I said yesterday, I was working with a newcomer to write an email to her teacher to add her to a Google Classroom, and that was amazing. And also when the teachers see the email, they respond. So this is kind of like a real life application in action. So I typically go over, what is a part of an email. If you want to make it a lesson, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to make it a lesson, just open your email and click on the like a compose, and that's where you can start doing the lesson as well. And the students can practice writing their own email. They can write an email to you. Excuse me, you will then be able to determine what else they need. Just like yesterday, I realized that we need to go back to the very basics of phonics. So this is something to really, really consider when your students, when you're working with all levels of English learners. So it is the last step. The step Ascend is also about empowering the teachers, okay? So we want everybody to know that EL students, whether newcomers or not, are not just your students. You know how we say it takes a village? So this is all of this that I'm sharing with you is to empower you and your content area teachers. Discussing the goals with your EL student, with your content teachers, using the strategies, focusing on what the students are able to do. These are huge, and adding any visuals is just not just for elementary. Okay, so this is what the step 3 is all about. But I think that quite honestly, it kind of like encompasses my entire message, that we want to be empowered and we want to be able to connect with everyone that is involved in the English learner journey. So let's review a little bit. Okay, so what is step 1? Making connections. Okay, in my opinion, the most important part. It is an ongoing process and needs nurturing, but there are materials that you can use right away, whether your student comes at the beginning of the school year or at the next semester or middle of the school year. The second one is embarking on a journey. So giving the newcomers the tools and having for yourself the tools to help them function in the school environment. What do they need right now? I am anticipating a newcomer who's going to be a teenage newcomer with zero English, and this is what I'm going to be using. We're going to be going through the very, very basics of English so that he is able to function in the classroom, down the line. And then the third one, once they have mastered the basics, let's let them thrive by explaining the academics simply and to the point, and that will make them successful. So allow yourself to not be perfect. It's totally fine, but stick to your professional knowledge. And it is kind of like all of our duty to help others in your school to understand that learning and teaching English is a welcome challenge for all of us. So I talked a lot, and I want to hear from you now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about having an EL teaching roadmap like the one we just chatted about? Let me know. Is it 1 is kind of like, I don't know, 10 is like, I would be excited, right? Let me see what we have here, because I see the chat going. 8, 6, 8, 9. Very nice. Very nice. Yes. And I understand that a lot of times the teaching situations are so different that, you can't find the one shoe fits all, right? But now that you have kind of like the big picture, you'll be able to, I hope you will be inspired to kind of like utilize it in your classroom, right? Let's see what else. All right, and exit ticket, because I'm done, right? Share which steps and activities you have found most inspiring, most useful, and most actionable. So let's see. Yeah.
The responses in the chat. So
Perfect.
If you could share in the chat which activities you found the most inspiring, useful, and actionable. Oh, the short. I like the short movies too. I really like that. I think that's a great idea. Robert says the last one. We have a lot of votes for the short films. Yeah, okay. Short stories and films. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites too, because I see the results right away. And it's, I don't know, and the kids are excited about that. It's kind of like meaningful learning. I love the meaningful learning, so that helps them understand like, oh, I got this. This is awesome.
And begin with the simple things. Yes, Sonia, that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rowena says she likes the ascend component. So
absolutely. So
okay.
I just wanted to kind of like leave everyone with this last, I really like this by Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. I think this is us all the time. Last year, I didn't know something. This year, I know something, and we're constantly learning. So I truly thank you for, giving me the opportunity to be here, Liz. And thank you all for listening to me chattering on about my roadmap.
Thank you. I love your roadmap, and I think our audience did too. I think it's just nice to see, for new teachers, it's nice to have that sort of laid out to give a nice framework. And then it's affirming for teachers who have been at it for a while and they looked at your roadmap and they said, oh, I do this too. We think alike.
I love that too. Yes.
So yes. It's just very helpful. And please do check out her website, there is a link in the handouts along with the certificate. And if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description for a link and you'll find the link to the checklist, as well as I think it's like a 20% off discount code for some of your other goodies that you have on your website. So thank you for that. Before you go, our next webinar is not next week, but the week after, and we have Stephen Fleener joining us to talk about structured visuals. So deepening small group conversations with structured visuals. I know many of you know Stephen and you're a fan, so we hope that you'll join us. And if you don't know who he is, definitely join us because you're going to really like the resources and ideas that he will share. Also, don't forget to check out our new phonics-based libraries for tweens. So if you are in need of phonics or sight words materials that are appropriate for middle and high school, that is what we do all day long here at Saddleback. So yeah, but I'll send you some samples. And anybody else who needs samples, we'll definitely hook you up with those. All right, let me check the chat and the questions for anything else. Let's see, we got Stephen Fleener is groovy. Yes, he is. So check it out. When I tried to register for that session, we couldn't. Okay, so it probably will go up on the website tomorrow because it is a couple of weeks away, but we will definitely put that up on the website, and you'll get an email too when it's ready to be, when the registration page is ready. So all right, so let's see what the questions are that we have quickly. So this is a funny question. Robert wants to know, would you use clips from The Simpsons for language development for high school ESL students? The Simpsons. I don't know.
I think I have to like preview it. There are some things that are truly, truly funny, but you have to preview it. And just kind of like, I think depending on the overall, I guess, message, it depends on the clip. I haven't used any of them. But I think you just have to like look at the situation, right? You know, some schools says, don't use this, don't use that. Ours like has like an approved list of like, you know,
right.
all the like the tech tools and, you know, like guidelines of what to use and what not to use. So I would say it's a judgment call. And if it is a, you know,
a permitted resource, right? It has to be. Yeah. I think you're right. A lot of schools have.
I know
it's
K-12.
Like Robert does adult ed, so I think it might be a little bit different, but for K-12, definitely sometimes we're limited on some of those pop culture things that we can use.
Yeah.
It does have clever satire and probably some really interesting idiomatic expressions and things too, which may or may not be. I haven't seen a Simpsons episode in so long, but that would be an interesting show to check out to see if there's anything useful there. So, and we're going to wrap up right after this question. Robert asked this question of pretty much all of our presenters, I think. So he wants to know if you are familiar with teaching East Asian English language learners who come from teacher-centered instruction with an emphasis on memorization of grammar patterns for accuracy and less on fluency for critical thinking and creative thinking. Have you encountered that? I'm not sure what your population is.
I've had students from,
he wants me to share, by the way, that he's Korean American. So that's what.
All right. So. Yeah. I've had students, I've noticed that too, but so there are so many different things that I've discovered from, you know, obviously the language itself, the language learning itself. And I also noticed in our schools, higher level thinking and opinion sharing and persuasion and the critical thinking are very encouraged. So I noticed that they're uncomfortable because they want to be right all the time and they want the teacher to tell them what to do. So this is, I think, an uncomfortable situation for them. However, once they get past, you know, once they see what is required of them, you know, like I mean, it takes time. So over time, we work on this critical thinking. We work on, you know, what do you think? But I think quite honestly, and you probably would know this better, Robert, but I think that just kind of like changing your thinking. I remember when I had to like think in English all the time, it seems like my brain rearranged. So we're kind of like rearranging the student's brain that it's all right to say what you think. It is tough.
It's tough. And
I'm not gonna lie, it is tough, but they bring so much that other students don't have. So whenever they come to class, they're always they bring such work ethic that is not always present in a regular education classroom. That kind of like balances everything out. And we can work with that. So I don't know if I answered your question. It's probably like a webinar in itself, quite honestly.
Sure, it is. No, I think Robert is just curious to hear people's experiences with that. And he has actually sent me some really interesting articles and resources that I'll forward to you, just as good background knowledge and context as well.
Yeah.
So my students in China responded really well when I slowed down and took the time to establish classroom norms in collaboration with them and helped to build trust. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. All right. Well, I think we are we're 1 minute over time, so not a big deal at all. I want to say thank you again to our wonderful presenter and to all of our participants who took the time out of their day to join us today. We really appreciate you. This is where you can find Saddleback. And of course, we'll get that registration page up for Stephen's webinar later today or tomorrow. And then don't worry, you're not going to miss it. If you are registered for this webinar, you will get an email we will email you so you can register for the next webinar and the upcoming events. So, all right. Yes, I will put here's my email address, Robert. And then what I can do is
I can put mine too. So.
Yeah, Ieva will put hers in there. Perfect. Robert, I know you have mine. I don't know why, but for anybody else who needs it, I guess. Yes, there it is. There it is.
I typically respond, but sometimes it takes me a little longer because, as Liz said, I work full time and sometimes my brain doesn't work past normal hours. So I'll do my best to respond to everyone in a timely fashion. And I just wanted to thank you all so much for this opportunity and for having me here and for listening, and for Liz and for Saddleback. So.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.